Before we start again, by regulation, I must advise you again of your rights. They are that you have the right to remain absolutely silent. If you do make a statement, it could be used against you. You have the right to legal counsel. This means qualified lawyer. It can be civilian or military. If he's civilian, it will be at your own expense. Military, it can be of your own choosing if he is reasonably available. If not, one will be appointed for you. Now, even if you decline to have counsel at this time, it doesn't mean you can't stop at any time and say, I no longer desire to answer questions and I desire counsel. And at that time we will stop. Now, Captain, at this time, do you desire counsel? Legal counsel?
No.
And you are willing to answer questions concerning the murders at this time?
Right.
I have been sitting here most of the morning, not saying very much and just listening to your story. And I have been an investigator for a long time. And if you were a PFC, an uneducated person, I might try to bring you in here and bluff you. But you are a very well-educated man, doctor, captain, and I'm going to be fair with you. But your story just doesn't ring true. There's too many discrepancies. For instance, take a look at that picture over there. Do you see anything odd about that scene?
No.
It is the first thing I saw when I came to the house that morning. Notice the flower pot?
It's standing up.
Uh-huh. Notice the magazines?
Yeah.
Notice the edge of the table right there?
I don't understand the significance of it.
Okay. The lab technicians, myself, Mr. Ivory and Mr. Shaw, and any number of other people have tipped that table over. It never lands like that. It is top-heavy and it goes all the way, even pushes the chair out of the way. The magazines don't land under the leaning edge of the table. They land on the floor.
Couldn't this table have been pushed around in the struggle?
It could have been, but it would have been upside down when it stopped. The plant and the pot always go straight out, and they stay together in all instances.
Well, what are you trying to say?
That it is a staged scene.
You mean that I staged the scene?
That's what I think.
Do you think that I would stand the pot up if I staged the scene? It's just my own, interest.
Somebody stood it up like that.
Well, I don't see the reasoning behind that. You just told me I was college educated and very intelligent.
I believe you are.
Well, why do you think I would... I don't understand why you think that I would stage it that way if I was going to stage it.
And your glasses, which you told originally were on the coffee table, and over there underneath the drapery. And they could have gotten there, but you weren't wearing them, your glasses, when you went into the bedroom. And they are lying with the outer edge of the lens down on the floor. Yet on the face of the lens there's blood.
Maybe someone knocked them over.
But how did they get blood on them?
I assume from the person who knocked them over.
Another feature here. There's an Esquire magazine laying there. There's a box laying on top of it.
Where is that?
Right here. Across which, well, on this edge, right underneath the box. There's blood on the edge of the pages. This whole thing here was staged.
That's a pretty powerful statement. Changes things around, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Well, there's nothing I can say to refute you if that's what you believe. But as far as I'm concerned, it is not staged.
Just about everybody, including lab technicians, lawyers, provost marshal, staff judge advocate, myself, Mr. Ivory, Mr. Shaw. The table has probably been tipped, and the only way it would have landed like that is for it to be put that way, balanced very carefully, by hand.
You mean if someone was straddling that table or something, it couldn't fall that way?
No.
Well...
If someone was straddling that table when it went over, he'd probably get a broken ankle. It's that top-heavy.
Captain MacDonald, is there anything you can think of?
Well, I can't help you. Well, what do you want me to say? You are telling me that I staged the scene and that's it. It's a little ludicrous.
Well, you must understand that I am looking at it from the point of an investigator, past experience.
I understand that.
Notice the rug right there?
Right.
It slips and slides and rolls up very easily. In the position it is in, That's where you would have been having the struggling pushing against 3 men.
Well, at the edge of the bed and on the end of the hallway.
Uh-huh. The rug was undisturbed.
Well, what do you want me to say? I'm not an investigator, and you are telling me that I staged the scene, and I'm telling you that things happened the way I told you.
You know, you as a doctor and I as an investigator have seen many people come into emergency rooms, and they are pretty badly hurt.
Right.
I've seen people who were shot directly in the heart with a .38 and run over 100 yards. You had one ice pick wound, apparently from an ice pick. Puncture your lung to the point that it collapsed 20% of it. You had one small lump on your head.
No, correction, I had 2.
2? Okay, 2. Not, apparently, wounds or bumps that would have been caused by this type of club that we have in this instance, if anyone was swinging with any force.
Well, I can't agree with you there, medically. I have treated patients who have died, and there's nothing but a little abrasion on their forehead.
That's probably true, but here you are. You've been hit twice by now. This didn't knock you out. This is according to your story. You have a point here where the old adrenaline is pumping into your system. You are fighting for yourself and your children. And yet you passed out here, according to your story, at the end of the hallway.
It wasn't exactly passing out, Mr. Grebner. I was hit on the head a couple of times.
But that didn't knock you out. You were still pushing and fighting against these people and...
Well, apparently it did knock me out, though.
For an unexplained reason, you passed out.
No, I didn't pass out. Apparently I was knocked unconscious.
By a third blow?
I don't know how many blows.
But this weapon was used on Colette and Kim. It is a brutal weapon. We have 3 people here that are overkilled almost, and yet they leave you alive.
Well, I've gone over that myself, and the only way I can see that I was the first one, that when I was unconscious.
While you were laying there in the hallway, why not give you a good lick or 2 behind the head with that club and finish you off?
Well, maybe I was...
You saw them eye to eye. They don't know that you wouldn't be able to identify them at a later date. Why leave you there alive?
I don't know. Maybe they assumed that I was dead and the frenzy got worse and worse. I don't know. I've thought about this. I've spent many sleepless nights in the last 6 weeks, you know. The only thing I can see is I did hear some screaming and perhaps I was the first one and then things got worse and worse. I don't know.
Well, that means that there had to have been somebody in the back bedroom there with Colette, wouldn't there?
Unless they had already hit her or stabbed her once or twice and left her and come in to see me. And then she started screaming and they went back on their way out. That's the only way I could have worked it out.
And then we have the fibers from the threads that sewed your pajama pocket on directly underneath her body.
Sir, I told you I can't explain some of those fibers. That's beyond my capabilities. I just told you the only thing I know, and obviously the implication is real bad for me. But I can't. How can I explain that? I don't know. They had to be either on my hands or body or the aggressors, and they were dropped. That's all I can tell you.
And as we enter the bedroom, we have Kimberly's blood on the rug. Matt. To the right of the door, we have a sheet and coverlet for the bed. And on the sheet is Colette's blood and Kimberly's. And on the bedspread, it's Colette's blood, large quantities, both. The hairs of Kimberly. Now hippies don't. They let bodies fall where they may.
Right, I agree with you.
So it is another stage scene, probably. Kimberly was returned to her bed. It's a possibility. Carried in the sheet.
Couldn't that blood have been transported to that bed any other way? On the hands?
Too much of it? Too much blood. It couldn't have been transported by hands. But there's blood there. There is absolutely no evidence that could be found, even though we had technicians for 5 days in there, of an alien being in that house. There would have had to have been 5 people by your story. You saw 4 of them. You get that many people in a house that small, you're going to have evidence of it.
You mean to tell me there was nothing in that house from anyone else?
Not in those bedrooms.
What's that?
Not in those bedrooms.
Well, there's been plenty of people in those bedrooms. I mean, if they hadn't been there that night, there were people in those bedrooms. So I don't understand what you are saying. That doesn't necessarily hold true to me, in my mind.
We are talking about people in there committing a crime, not people.
I know.
That we're tiptoeing in. The kids were asleep.
I don't know what you expect me to say here.
At one point you told, I think it was Mr. Hodges, that there was an ice pick in the house.
No, I never said that. That is absolutely incorrect. I was asked...
Mr. Caverly and Mr. Hodges. Those 2 men. One was an FBI man, and the other was my man.
I never said there was an ice pick in the house. We had no ice pick. I'm lazy and I buy cubes. That's incorrect, sir, and...
Well, most of us have ice picks. We don't use them as ice picks quite often. We use them for opening canned milk. That club, you said you had never seen that before. Do you know that the paint on that is the same as paint that's on the sidewalk out in the back of your house?
Look.
It is the same as the paint on scraps of wood that you have in your locked storage room.
Uh-huh.
It is the same as the paint on a pair of surgical rubber gloves that was in your locked storage room. That piece of wood came from your house.
It might have been. I haven't seen the piece of wood. You said it was 2x2, and I know of no 2x2s.
It was cut off of probably 4 by 2x6 or something like that.
Well, I didn't recognize it from the picture, and you said it was 2x2 before, and I know of no 2x2s that I have, and I didn't recognize it from the picture. Jesus Christ, this is getting, what's this called? Circumstantial evidence that, yeah. Well, go ahead. What else do you have?
I was just throwing things in for you to consider.
Well, what you are doing, you are sitting here telling me that I killed my wife and kids. That's unbelievable. Christ's sakes. What's my motive? What did I do that for?
We can conjecture a lot of reasons, perhaps.
You think I wasn't happily married?
I'm happily married, too. Sometimes I get pretty mad at my wife, particularly when I was younger and more easily angered.
You think I could get mad enough at someone to do that?
I have known it to happen before.
Holy Christ. I tell you what it looks like to me. It looks like you've run out of things and you are picking out someone, the easiest one. That's what it looks like to me. You've got to solve it by the end of the fiscal year, so when the report goes in, there's a 100% solved rate.
No, I've been at this for 20 years and I'm going to stick one more. So I'm not in any hurry. It is just that we have all these business here, and it would tend to indicate that you were involved in it, rather than 5 people who came from the outside and picked 544 Castle Drive and went up and were lucky enough to find your door open. I spent many a night out on the post, and I know one thing. With the number of dogs we have around, you don't go around rattling doors here and find one that's open so you can come in and for no apparent reason and knock off 3 people. At that hour of the morning, the patrols we have around, there wouldn't have been 5, a group of 5 people wandering through the housing area.
Oh, that's a lot of baloney.
Or driving through.
I've never seen patrol there at night, and I've been there since August.
Well, I can assure you they are there. You probably weren't looking for them.
Well, where do we go from here?
It's up to you.
It's not up to me. I told you what I know. You put some pictures in front of me. Tell me they are staged, and tell me I did it.
You've got what? A 5-room house there?
Right.
And at least 3 of them were setups, just flat setups. Staging.
Which 3 are those?
Living room, north bedroom, south bedroom.
What's the north bedroom? You mean the master bedroom?
The front bedroom and the back bedroom. Christie's bedroom.
Christy? The baby?
The north bedroom.
What did I stage in there, just for my own interest?
Let me tell you something. I don't want to step out of line here, and if I am, I'm sorry. I don't know that you did that, Captain MacDonald. I don't know it at all. But my experience tells me, too, that what you say isn't right. What you say, Captain MacDonald, is not right. Why it isn't, I don't know. I don't know what you know.
You mean because it is an unusual, bizarre crime?
No, the crime isn't bizarre. It happens every day. Every day. In New York City, they have 20 or 30 murders a day. Some far worse than this. But by the physical evidence that is in this house.
And the lack of physical evidence. What you say isn't so. It just isn't so. Now there are variations I am thinking of. We don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in that house. Maybe some of the others who are not here, who are concerned with it, are convinced, but I am not. I am not at all convinced. But I don't know what happened. I don't know how this started. I don't know what the succession of events were. I have no idea.
And you'd like to help me, right?
No, I'm not going to tell you I want to help you.
You have the soft approach and he has the hard. Basic intelligence. Go ahead.
Basic intelligence. Okay. You don't want to hear what I have to say?
Sure, I am very interested.
I think Mr. Grebner made that kind of clear to you.
What's that?
That he's not going to try to fool you. Bluffing. It's called the Mutt and Jeff approach. I guess you've heard that before.
Right. As a matter of fact, I just learned it 2 weeks ago.
Okay, you've discussed this with somebody?
I was a prisoner of war, physician in a training room.
You can think what you want to, I don't care, but I wish you wouldn't. But that's all right. But I'm not convinced what other people think is right. Do I know that what you're saying? But I believe what you're saying isn't so.
Wow. Step 1, you lose your family. Step 2, you get blamed for it, huh? That's terrific. Great.
You were the only one that was left alive there.
Oh, well, that's pretty significant.
It sure is from the way the others were taken care of. Everything else is very methodical. There was no erratic behavior in that house. Maybe to start with there was some erratic behavior, but other than that, at the finish, very methodical.
How was I supposed to have gotten these wounds?
You could get these wounds, at least the ones you had. The puncture, you could have done it yourself. Couple of blows on the head and lot of little puncture wounds and little cut on the abdomen and couple of stab marks in the arm and a puncture wound in the lung. That's one.
That's reasonable, or I paid someone. That's the other one. Well, I don't know what you men want me to say. I don't have much to lose, do I? I lost everything else. You men are making an awful lot out of this on circumstantial evidence that can probably be explained. I can tell you that.
That's why I'm bringing it up. Explain.
I mean, I can't explain the scene. It just seems to me that in a struggle, any staging would be possible. You know what I mean? In other words, people stepping on things or legs against things, holding it when it fell, or it just doesn't ring true to me that has to be a staged scene.
You mean someone grasping at you, and the table starts tipping over, someone...
No, I didn't say that, Mr. Grebner. I mean, you are just making fun of what I am saying. I mean, you asked me a question. You asked me for my idea, and my idea is that if this guy is standing next to that table, and perhaps this girl was moving around behind him or something, and the table goes over and it hits her leg.
Okay. How did the flower pot get upright?
I don't know. Maybe someone stepped on it and tilted it. Maybe it bounced when it flew off the table.
It never did that in all the times we tried it.
Well, you are telling me that I staged the scene and did an absolutely idiotic thing, and yet I was very methodical. It doesn't hold any water. What did I do? Dump out the plant and sit the pot down? I mean, if I staged the scene,
You might have dropped it. The plant's on top of the table. And when you tip the table over...
Maybe one of the medics or the MPs kicked it or stood it up, you know. Jesus Christ, when did you people start thinking like this? I mean, when did all this come to light?
This scene right there, I questioned when it first came up. I thought it was very odd.
You mean it took What I noticed first was the plant, the pot, and the magazines. Now I didn't realize that the table was that top heavy. But it took
Touching.
But it took your office 6 weeks to question me about these things?
Captain, we've been all over the United States tracing down hippies and girls with long blonde hair.
I'm sure. I understand that, but I mean, it seems to me that...
This box just holds part of the work we've done. We've talked to thousands of people.
Oh man. Jesus Christ, this is a nightmare. This is like Edgar Allan Poe. Wow. Apparently you don't know much about my family and myself, I'll tell you that, to come up with this conclusion. Or me, for that matter.
What kind of a man are you, Captain? You say we don't know much about you. What kind of a man are you?
Well, I'm bright, aggressive, I work hard, and I had a terrific family, and I love my wife very much. And this is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my whole life. It's almost as bad as the next morning, thinking about this and thinking it was a dream. Jesus Christ. You can ask any patient I've treated. I go way out of my way. I've spent my whole medical career. It isn't that long, but to date, I've never had a problem with a patient. Always gone out of my way, always worked extra hours, always helped people. I love my wife more than any couple I know. I've never known a couple that's as happy as our family, and you come up with this shit. God damn it. You couldn't ask one friend. You didn't even talk to some of them. You made appointments and never showed up. God damn it, how do you come up with this? We even had plans for a farm in Connecticut. Well, that's a load of bullshit, I tell you. God damn it.